Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewiński. France's new Prime Minister Sebastien Lecornu has resigned just hours after announcing his new cabinet, and only 1 month into the job. The move came after political opponents and allies alike threatened to topple the newly appointed government. Lecornu's new cabinet was set to convene for the first time later today. However, his choice of ministers angered both sides of the political spectrum, with some calling the appointees too right-leaning, while others thought them not right-wing enough. Lecornu was President Emmanuel Macron's fifth prime minister in 2 years, and experts describe his resignation as yet another sign of France's deepening political crisis. French politics has become increasingly unstable since Macron's re-election in 2022, as no party holds a parliamentary majority. His decision to call a snap parliamentary election last year deepened the crisis by producing an even more fragmented parliament. The unexpected resignation of the French Prime Minister Sebastien Lecornu is reverberating throughout global markets, with the stock exchange in Paris falling by nearly 2%. At the same time, the spread between French and German government bonds has hit a 9-month high.
By now, the markets are used to political impasse in France, but still, the Prime Minister resigning less than a day after unveiling his cabinet caught markets by surprise on Monday morning. CAC 40, the main index of the French stock exchange, went down by almost 2%, one of the biggest falls this year, and solidifying its status as one of the worst performing indices this year. The difference between how much interest France has to pay when it borrows money versus what Germany, seen as the most stable economy in the Eurozone, pays has hit almost 90 basis points, the highest in 9 months. But experts caution that Lecornu's resignation is not the end of the world, as much of this risk has been already factored in by the market.
Ukraine has hit back at Russia by targeting its energy infrastructure in Belgorod and occupied Crimea. Tens of thousands of people were left without power as the battle for energy rages on. For more on this topic, let's go live now to Kiev and our special correspondent Alex Kadir. So Alex, we've seen several strikes on energy infrastructure on both sides now. Could this mean we're actually entering a new phase in this conflict?
Well, good afternoon, Jonasz. It's a similar phase to what we saw last winter, with one key difference. Last winter, we saw Russian strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure causing rolling blackouts across the country, including here in the capital city of Kiev. One crucial difference, of course, is that it appears Ukraine has more of an ability now to strike back. We heard President Zelensky in the last few days saying that any strikes on Ukrainian energy infrastructure would see a response in kind from Ukraine on Russian energy infrastructure. That's what we've seen overnight. The city of Belgorod reporting blackouts with energy infrastructure there targeted. 40,000 people in that city and around it without power. First responders on the scene trying to assess and repair the damage. We've also heard that hospitals in the city of Belgorod are on emergency power as a result of these strikes. They follow, of course, 500 drones and 50 missiles fired into Ukraine by Russia just the night before. That targeted the Lviv region in western Ukraine, just close to the border with Poland, causing blackouts in the city of Lviv. We've also seen strikes in Zaporizhia causing blackouts there, as well as Chernihiv, north of where we are here in Kyiv. And again, we see this now tit-for-tat attack, a stronger Ukrainian response than we would have seen last winter. We've also heard from Kaja Kallas, the EU's top diplomat, who said that these Russian strikes on energy infrastructure, civilian targets in Ukraine is just an excuse to hide the fact that Russia's summer offensive has failed. That is the view from the EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas. But for now, of course, those strikes will continue. Ukraine frustrated with what they see as an insufficient response to these strikes from their Western partners. They want to see a stronger response from European Union and NATO allies. For now, the response to Russian strikes on any energy infrastructure in this country, according to the Ukrainian side, will be more strikes on energy infrastructure in Russia. Jonasz?
Alex Kadir reporting live from Kiev on the latest development in the conflict. Alex, thank you very much for being here with us today. Now we're moving on to Moldova. 55 members of the European Parliament are calling on the European Council to begin accession talks with Moldova. According to legislators from 19 countries, the results of recent elections in Moldova, won decisively by pro-EU forces, should give Brussels an impulse for action.
The letter, signed by 55 MEPs, says that the European Union should send a powerful signal to the people in Moldova that their voices are being heard within the bloc. The message, addressed to European Council President Antonio Costa, calls on him to streamline Moldova's accession process by immediately beginning negotiations with Chisinau. Most of the signatories of the letter belong to the left-wing Progressive Alliance of Socialists and Democrats, but there are also representatives of other parties on the list.
The European Union has issued a statement calling on Georgians to refrain from post-election violence. The statement has also rejected and condemned claims of EU interference in Georgia made by authorities in Tbilisi.
The statement, signed by EU diplomacy chief Kaja Kallas and the EU Commissioner for Enlargement, criticizes Georgia's human rights record. The text highlights that Saturday's local elections in Georgia were not fully competitive because of repressions against opposition and civil society. The EU authorities are calling for an end to violence which followed the voting. The Georgian government is accusing the European Union of meddling. The EU statement calls these accusations disinformation.
US President Donald Trump has responded to Russian leader Vladimir Putin's proposal to extend the New START treaty intended to reduce the number of nuclear warheads stockpiled by the US and Russia during the Cold War. Speaking to reporters at the White House lawn, Trump said the offer to extend the treaty to 2027 and renegotiate the terms for future agreements was, and I quote, a good idea.
After 2 weeks, US President Trump has finally responded to Putin's proposal to extend the New START treaty, the last surviving arms treaty between the world's two largest nuclear powers.
President Putin offers to keep limits on nuclear arms for 1 more year to then hopefully negotiate a new treaty.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Set to expire in 2026, the treaty was thought to be abandoned in 2023. But on September 23rd, Putin offered to extend it until 2027. The treaty would then be renegotiated. While some experts describe Putin's proposal as a concrete step towards limiting the existing nuclear stockpile, many also point out that the move is likely mainly intended to strengthen Moscow's negotiating position with Washington.
Protests erupted in Budapest on Sunday over an alleged child abuse scandal involving 2 government officials. Thousands took to the streets of the Hungarian capital in a show of solidarity for child protection and a stand against the imbalance and abuse in state-run institutions.
They are now very afraid for their own safety. If they fail here, they will go to prison, hopefully. They don't care about what they should care about. They don't protect the children, but attack those who oppose them. They are so attached to their power that they are no longer even looking for the guilty parties, but are punishing those who speak out against them. It points to a change in the system, because what is happening here in this country is that they are requesting EU funding and doing nothing that complies with EU standards. That is a disaster, and actually the EU must ban Hungary from all funds until the new government is formed.
Hundreds of hikers are trapped near Mount Everest after a blizzard swept across the world's highest mountain. Rescuers managed to bring down 350 people to safety on Sunday, but it's still not known how many tourists remain stranded at an altitude of nearly 5,000 meters. Large numbers of hikers made the ascent towards Mount Everest on the Tibetan side, taking advantage of an 8-day holiday in China. However, they encountered adverse weather conditions during the climb. Eyewitnesses say the area has seen heavy snowfall combined with thunder and lightning. Some 1,000 people were left stranded, according to earlier Chinese media reports. On Sunday, it was reported that 350 were rescued and contact was established, with an additional 200 people still left in the area. Representatives from Israel and Hamas are preparing for indirect negotiations in Egypt on Monday that could lead to a possible ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages held by the terrorists. The talks come after reports that 19 people were killed in an Israeli strike on Gaza on Sunday. Hopes for a possible ceasefire grew after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a hostage release could be announced this week. Egypt's foreign ministry said discussions will focus on the proposed exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Under President Donald Trump's peace initiative, Hamas would release the remaining 48 hostages, about 20 of whom are believed to be alive, within the next 3 days. Now, the plan envisages Hamas giving up power and disarming. The first of this year's Nobel Prize winners have just been announced, with a trio of researchers about to receive the prize in the field of medical sciences. The prestigious awards are divided into 6 categories in total, with other winners scheduled to be announced in the coming days. The winners of the 2025 Nobel Prize in Medicine or Physiology, Mary E. Bracknell, Fred Ramsdell and Shimon Sakaguchi, have been announced by the Karolinska Institute in the Swedish capital Stockholm. This year's award recognizes the groundbreaking discoveries concerning the inner workings of the human immune system. According to the Academy, Brunko, Ramsdell and Sakaguchi have made important advances in developing our understanding of the so-called peripheral immune tolerance that prevents the immune system from harming the body instead of protecting it. Their discoveries laid the foundation for innovative treatments for various autoimmune diseases and cancers. The remaining Nobel Prize winners, awarded for making groundbreaking advances and significant contributions in physics, chemistry, literature, peace and economic sciences, will be announced in the coming days.
Good morning, and you're so welcome for the announcement of this year's Nobel Prize.
And with this, we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.